our senses, right? We can see, taste, touch, smell, and hear.
Let's get it! Hey! Click tight! Constantly intimidating those who speak the language of rhyme. A maniacal prodigal, putting pressure on the mind. The deadliest of my kind. Deep inside, the corridors are hardcore. My word is law. I spawn scriptures that can't be ignored. With the nature of a cruel identity, do have the gift of infinity to strip the sanity with some obscenity. Threaten enemies, correcting all frequencies with the rhymes of authority. Polluting adolescents and parentals alike. So brutal on the mic to make MCs bite the pillow. I have but one rival, and that's the devil. So I'll bury this corpse and hit this shovel 6 feet deep as I creep into another level. Spoken chronicles beyond the gravel. I size the individual of rotting evil, ready for battle and move the crowd like cattle. With a voice that can beckon the brain, a beat that causes name. Let's get it. Already know. Let's get it. Click tight. Dangerous spot.
Hey everybody. Welcome to Dangerous Thoughts. I'm your host. Manu Ente Reme. I'm your host. And this is Dangerous Thoughts, where we live dangerously. We're late tonight. I don't know why. Hold on a second.
Yeah. Yeah. Why are we late? Hold on.
Yeah, we're late tonight, so deal with it. We love you. Thank you for sticking around for us. We came on a little late. We had some troubles. We live dangerously. You know, this is the show where we talk about dangerous shit. We live dangerously. We believe dangerously. We don't support anything that anybody says on this show, including ourselves. But we believe that it could be possible. And tonight we have some amazing guests. We've got Allison and Chad Goodwin, makers of Parascientist, the documentary, which is about trying to actually prove physical contact with ghosts and all the cool things about that. We have the trailer, and we're going to play it for you right now so you get to know these filmmakers a little bit better. So check it out. This is Parascientist, and this is Allison and Chad Goodwin's film. You should go get it for yourself, but check out the trailer first.
Come in this room. Come touch me.
Touch, one of the 5 senses we can't live without. It helps guide us through our lives. Touch gives us warmth and comfort, as well as pain and suffering. But what about those stories of people getting touched by ghosts and spirits? People getting scratched and molested by something unseen? How is this happening? Is it real or fabricated? And if it is real,
Are you trying to touch me?
what could it mean?
Even though science has yet been able to prove or disprove these strange encounters, through the years of patterns and consistency, shows us the phenomenon is true.
I think you're on the right path. I think you're at kind of a precipice where you can clearly show that humans have an experience that has an objective piece to it, which at the very least should get other scientists interested in looking at that question.
My whole research process is trying to bring in a more scientific basis. People need to understand that this is not just your bells and whistles that you see on ghost hunting shows. This is real science.
I'm going to really do my best to try to find information and data that suggests that this is a real thing that we're looking for.
It was here in D Block that changed everything for me and for me.
I'm ready to be open. Hey, you in the corner here touches people. You around here? Oh, neck. Really? Scratch me? Oh, I'm red.
At the exact time that I was scratched, looking at the larger data set, you can see anomalies in the PIR and ultrasonic sensors. We can use that data to then create an animation showing what happened in approximate real time. So it looks like whatever it was moved toward me and then away very quickly.
When dealing with the paranormal, you have to be prepared for just about anything when the spirits are truly the ones in charge. The question is, how does the body perceive these experiences? What are the cause and effects of when this happens? And most of all, how do you prove these intimate encounters? For the first time in history, our journey into this untapped realm has only just begun.
That ghost.
Wow.
That ghost touched his butt or poked him in the butt.
You know what? It's not uncommon in a prison situation for somebody to grab their ass and say, "Don't touch me," and run away. That's normal. But when there's nobody there,
Huh?
no, I am loving this. I am loving. And think about it.
Yeah,
If you're
me
thinking
too.
of a ghost touch, right? What is the most sensitive part of your body? Maybe the underside of your arm. Maybe it's called the weenus, right? What? You know what? My nuts are pretty fucking sensitive, and I'm guessing we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think we are. That film it looks great. I actually ordered it on Amazon an hour ago before the show started, and we were like scrambling to get the show together. And I saw the first 10 minutes. So, and it's great. It's good.
Oh, I can't wait. I
As
can't
soon
wait.
as the show's over, I'm gonna go watch the rest of it, which is what you folks at home should do. You can also go by Touched. I think it's Touched by Ghost. We'll get our guests on here and they can tell us their website. But it's a cool movie. Let's bring on Ross Allison and Chad Goodwin, who did a lot of the science on this film, I think. Which is my first question for you guys. First of all, welcome to the program. How are you?
Well, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out. It was cool. So all right, I'm like everybody else in the world that's interested in this kind of stuff. My girlfriend got me watching. My hetero life mate, my wife, whatever you want to call her, got me watching, Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures more than anything. There's something to it, no doubt. So I guess the question that I have for you first is, it looks like you guys have some different type of science than they have on that show. You mentioned something called PIR. I've never heard of that. And what type of science did you bring to these experiments, and tell us about some of the experiments that you did?
Well, I'll let Chad open with that one.
Well, what we did was Ross got a hold of me after some time. I did some interviews. I had a radio show here in Seattle, and he got a hold of me in like 2019, so 3 years after this. And he said, "Hey, if you were going to sense somebody being touched by a ghost, what would you do?" And so I popped off a couple things off the top of my head. I'm a scientist, and I got to thinking about like what energy and what would this thing be. And he says, "Hey, I have an opportunity to do this show. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Sure." It was in the COVID time frame when things weren't, we didn't have, what were you going to do otherwise, right? But then he was like, "But wait a minute. There's one thing about this thing. All the subjects are going to be naked." And I was like,
oh, I'm there. I'm there. I'll be there. Yeah. Are they cute?
Yeah. I was like, wow, And at first, it was a shocking thing to hear. Like, I think some people are shocked by the fact that the subjects, the test subjects, are naked. But what you end up finding out is this is kind of how it has to be, because your clothes are touching you, and it'd be hard to discern from the experiences that I've had, what is clothes versus what actually happened. And so I went out with him on some of these early to see what he'd been doing and trying to figure out, how am I going to actually contribute. And he had already an array set up. It's called the SPECTRE array. Ross, you know what to do. I never get it.
Special Paranormal Energy Computer Tracking Research Equipment.
And so he had this this already set up, but it was a little bit limited in scope because some of this stuff is kind of expensive, and he's using really high-end gear and computer, laptop, so it became stationary. So I added a few things like the PIR, which is passive infrared radiation. So it's kind of like when you walk up to your door at night and the light automatically turns on. It's looking for heat signatures in the area that are coming around it. And we expanded what he was doing. We made it 360 degrees around a subject, and we went out and did some of these tests, and we were found information that suggests something's there.
I love that everybody's got their dick dangling out and boobs out and they're naked. I think it's fantastic. I think people are really uptight in this world about nudity, and it's stupid. It really is.
And that has been. Yeah. I was going to say that has been a challenge that we've come across, is because people want to sexualize it, and they just didn't understand the science behind using the skin. The skin is the most sensitive part of your body. And so one of the things, as Chad was talking about,
something hooks your jacket.
The removal of clothing, because clothing becomes contaminated evidence. If somebody's going to say, "Oh, I felt a tap on my shoulder," and they're wearing a shirt, anybody in the scientific field or even a skeptic is going to just say, "Well, sorry, you can't prove anything with that." But you also want to know, if you are being touched, what is happening to the physical body.
Right.
What's happening to the skin? Is there pressure? Is there a temperature variant? Those are the types of things that we need to know if we're trying to validate these touches.
And immediately,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, but immediately on once somebody is touched in an experiment, I would expect you would want to get cameras on that area immediately as well.
Right.
So if they're fully nude, you see on these ghost shows on whatever. So they'll be like, "Oh, I got scratched," and then they're taking off layers of clothing and trying to get to the mark, which could have caused the mark. Right. So I really think it's very cool that you guys did this the way you did it,
and we really, we're trying to eliminate that, and this is just a beginning process. I put in 7 years of this research, and Chad's just joined me. And
if you do it again, I'm signing up. Yeah, if you do it again, I want to come, because I not come. I want to join you.
Yeah, I'll be that. I'll be the cameraman, and I got my zoom lens. We'll need a zoom lens, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, zoom lens.
Go ahead.
No, they're gonna. I'm sure they're gonna glare that dick out for me. You won't need a very big.
Just 1 pixel.
Just 1 pixel. Little.
Oh shit!
I'm Irish. I'm Irish.
There's a psychology to that, right? Why is Naked and Afraid such a good show? Because you're in nature naturally, right? And that feels unnatural to humans. And so also when you're in this cell block, you're completely naked. There's a psychology going on, but you also, when it comes to the sense of touch, I mean, there could be wind, there could be bugs, there could be static. But when you add clothing to that, there's a whole nother layer of things that could interfere.
Well, there's security
with
as well,
touch, right?
It's like a security blanket when you're clothed. You're not as vulnerable.
Yeah,
right.
I love Tyson. I love Tyson that you say cell block. That you just somehow assume this is.
Well, that's where it was, right? This was in a jail. Where
that was the next question. How many different places, how many different locations did you go to, and where were you when you were doing these experiments?
Oh, I've been doing this for over 7 years, so I've done all kinds of various places. Like I did Battleship, I've done brothels, I've done prisons, I've done hospitals. So my main focus is, if there's reports of physical phenomena where people are being touched, I want to put subjects in those locations and see if I can validate that.
Cool. So share some of the most intense, a couple good stories about what stuff you've caught.
Well, I know Chad's got a great story, because one of the things I want to express is, yes, Chad joined me at the very beginning to see, what the hell I was doing. He wanted to, just observe. And as he was observing, watching these subjects have these unique experiences, he decided he wanted to do it himself. So he got naked and was a subject.
Chad. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm ready to sign up. That's the shit.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, it was from a science perspective. I have to know. I either have to know what I'm looking for, or I have to have a really good assumption of what I'm looking for. Right. And with this being such a broad topic and people experience it in so many different ways, one of the things that makes the nudity needed is the fact that your body goes into a fight or flight mode when you're sitting in the dark, because when we shoot, it's dark. It's dark. Like if you look at the lux meter data in the movie, it's like 0 and 1, 2 maybe. So there's no light there. And so when you're actually having the experiences, it's needed so that we can heighten people's senses, and that, you know, though, and they're doing things to try to bring things. But here's what happened. So I was in the prison in D Block, which is like this really bad area where they basically put all the prisoners in there, and all the guards stood outside and just dragged dead bodies out. It's basically what they said in short, right? And it was in between filming, and there was this time where I decided I was gonna try to do some prison talking and anger these ghosts. And Ross had always told me, like, don't do this, like, don't play that game, right? But I was like, I'm here by myself. And so I started doing it, and there was this moment where something happened. You know, like when you cut your finger or something, your body just goes, oh man, that just happened to me. I had that feeling, and then I felt like all of a sudden I didn't fit inside my skin, and then I had starting to get a headache, and I started to degrade in my feelings, and I started not feeling good. So I was talking with Shanna, who is in the show. She had some equipment in the show, and she does Reiki and healing and all that. And I was like, something just happened to me, and she was like, you're going to be okay. It's really late at night. We were filming late. We had been up for a long time. Maybe you just don't feel good. So that night we went back to our rooms, and there was a pretty bad electrical storm, a lot of thunder, a lot of lightning. And I was having these very vivid murder dreams. And one of them was so vivid that I was in a courtyard with people, and I was looking for somebody, and somebody saw me, and I saw them, and I shot them in the head. And boom, and it was graphic, and I woke up. And I was like, uh-oh, something's really wrong here. Never had these dreams before. And I made it through the night, and I walked out in the living room, and Shanna immediately was like, something's wrong with you. Something's off. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing good. So she said, let's get back to the prison for filming. We got B-roll. We got other setup stuff to do and everything, and then let's see what happens. But when we came around the corner and I saw that prison again, it was like the screws were tightened on me even tighter, and I felt even worse and just sick and headache. And we did our first few things, and I told Shanna, that's it. Whatever it is you do, I got to have some of that because I can't keep feeling like this. And she was doing the wonderful work that she does. And then there was a moment where it disappeared, and it was fine. And I was like, it's gone. Whatever you just did, it's gone, you know? And she was like, yeah, there was, you know, an entity that had attached to you, or some energy that attached to you. And now it's gone. And I asked her, I was like, what if you weren't here? What if, you know, this was a thing? And she's like, these kind of things have the possibility of sticking around with you because it was trying to get out of there, or whatever it had its intentions of doing. And that was the moment where I realized, there's something besides this, because not being able to see it, but looking for something, it can be really hard to try to figure it out, you know? And I think that's why humans have always known something's there. We're the main detector, right? We notice the stuff that's going on in the matrix around you. And so when that actually happened to me, I was like, oh, whoa, like,
how do you disassociate yourself? How do you get that thing off of you, or to not associate with you anymore?
She did some energy healing. She does energy healing, Reiki, and I don't understand that part.
But she knew. She knew,
and she was able to pull it. Yeah, and then I was okay. You know, and then also in the
and immediately your headache went away, and you felt better, and like it
took me about. It took me. I mean, that instant, like something's grabbing me, was gone. It took me a little bit of time to reset, but I was good for the rest of the day. Yeah. And then there's in the documentary, there's a moment where I get physically interacted with in the documentary. And so
are you the guy that gets poked in the ass?
No.
It looks like a guy gets fully poked in the butt because he reacts that way.
Oh.
He does.
Yeah,
he goes,
it does. Like, no. He grabs his ass and he runs away. Right?
It looks, yeah.
I saw that.
He runs down the hall. So I assume that he was touched in the posterior.
Yeah. No, actually, I know what you guys are talking about when he runs out of the prison screaming.
Yeah.
He actually saw something.
Oh, he saw something.
He saw something, and that's when he screams and runs away.
Because
no,
he screams, grabs his ass and runs away.
He grabs it. Yes, he does.
He's protecting himself. He knows where he is. He's in jail, so he's like, "Oh, I'm getting out of here."
Yeah,
I'm sorry. You got to make jokes. It's just you have to. But
I'm being real. I saw what I saw.
No, and I honestly do think it's really cool science what you're doing and taking the nudity angle. I think it's really, really interesting. and smart, because I know that if I was going to enter a haunted location in the pitch black, in the pitch darkness with a camera crew, or with somebody following me with a camera, I would be much more sensitive, much more attuned to my environment, and much more scared to walk into some place like that nude than I would be in clothes. Clothes are a safety barrier. They are something that makes us feel safer, stronger, less. And then, yeah, I mean, if you did get touched, you would know it, you know.
Yeah.
How many times? All right. So tell me a little bit more about this PIR science. And you did we do that on the air? I'm sorry. I take Xanax and I have a short term memory.
No, I can recap it real quickly for you.
Oh, no. Okay.
Basically,
Never mind. We did that on the air. If we did that on the air, that's all right. I don't remember. All right. So anyway, the PIR, but it was cool because it looks like, the question I had about the PIR was, you said that it's like a heat sensor. And so you can tell that if something, but does it sense like a change in temperature to the cool side as well? Or just
it's mostly looking for warmth. It's looking for body warmth or something to that effect, something that's exothermic or warming up in the environment. Okay. And then how we were able to actually we were using distance finders to actually figure out where in space this was. So when you see the animations in the documentary, there was something that both densified enough to send the sound wave back, and it exothermed, heated up in a way where both of those sensors went off at once during that time.
Now, so the cameras are catching sound at the same time as the heat is being watched. What kind of sound are you picking up?
Well, when when I got interacted with, there was a literal sound that happened, and then I realized what had happened to me. That something happened like in this area, but I heard it first. But what was really weird about that is when you think about pain and what happens to you, your body feels the pressure before it feels the pain. So you know something happened. Pain response comes after. And so in that, I knew something happened because I heard the sound. I didn't feel anything, but I knew generally where it was. And then it was after that I started to feel pain afterwards.
But apparitions tend to be associated with cold areas. So do you have the ability to look at to look at negative space, to say, you know, if the ambient temperature is X, you know, here comes Y, which is a cold. It's bluer than the rest of everything else. Or our spirits hotter.
Well, that's the thing is, you know,
hotter or colder.
We don't know this information. We're still searching. Yeah. We're going off of theories. You know, if you're considering the cold spot, the theory is that the energy is absorbing the heat. Heat is energy. But what's happening is it's releasing energy, which would create heat. Am I right, Chad?
Yeah. So, you know, I think what's happening there is the space. If something's exotherming or creating a thing, it's drawing the heat out of an environment to one location, which, if it's big enough, could cool down other parts of the area around it.
Which is
why people associate this. Yeah, which is why people associate this encounter with coldness. It's not that the entity is cold; it's that it's drawing the heat away.
Right.
Both,
wow.
Maybe. Yeah, we don't know.
I love
this. The Ghost Adventures guys are always like, "Oh, feel this spot. Oh my God, it's so cold." You know, they've been saying that forever, and it comes from before there was science and before there was people hunting with. You know, it's a cold spot in a room has always been something that people have associated with a possible. My vocabulary is failing me. Ghost, you know, a possible spooky.
Right.
All right. So D block.
Where was the prison? A class 5 free roaming vapor, I think is what.
There you go. Class 5 free roaming vapor. That's exactly what I was looking for. Where was this prison? Tell me about this prison and tell me about its history.
Well, the prison's actually in Tennessee. It's Brushy Mountain Prison. It's been abandoned for quite some time now. It has a lot of history of very negative things, bad things happening there. And that's even when, you know, the prisoners were there. It was a very violent prison. In fact, they even called it the end of the line because all the prisoners that they could not control in other prisons, they just sent them to this prison. And that's what Chad was saying. It's just like it was this D block was just a place you
Effed
just put these
up
guys
shit
in,
happened
and
there.
they just did whatever they did to themselves.
I mean, it
you
happens
know?
in all maximum security
Right.
prisons. People murder each
Yeah.
other. People get killed. Guards get killed. This is a reality of those places, and especially back in time.
Yeah.
So, how old was this place? And what was
I know.
what's its
I'm trying to
name?
remember. Do you remember the date of that place? I'm trying to remember.
No,
I don't.
Yeah.
but it was like an old jail, right? If it was
Oh yeah,
was
no, it's
closed
an
down,
old
it was
prison. Yes.
Since like
And
the
the odd thing
40s
about
or
it is
the
when you
20s
look at
or-
it from the top, it looks like an upside down cross, which really freaks me out.
Oh, that's creepy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I watched Clockwork Orange just before I came on the program,
Hold on.
and there's a prison in Clockwork Orange that that literally has like this upside down like cross, but then it has a couple more branches on it. You know, Pentagon upside down cross prison. That's creepy, man. That's really creepy.
You know, I wonder
Remember
if you,
the name
if you
of the
got
prison? What was it called again?
Brushy Mountain.
Brushy
Brushy
Mountain in
In
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Yep.
Ooh,
You can
Tennessee
people can visit
I
it. They
think-
do tours there.
That whole state is haunted, man. I've been through on a Greyhound bus, and I got scared shit just going through that state.
What would happen if you were able to take that equipment and go to a place like Auschwitz, right, where millions of not millions,
Ooh.
but
Has
hundreds
anyone
of
ever done
thousands of
that?
people?
Has anyone ever done a ghost investigation in Auschwitz?
I don't think so. I don't know if they'd be open to something like that. You know,
I would hope so,
it's
man. I
Still
hope
such a
that would
touchy
be-
subject for so many
Yeah,
people.
of course, but
It's like
It
going
would be
to Ground Zero. You know,
it
where
would be
the Twin
super
Towers went down.
interesting. Yeah,
It would.
Well,
you know,
if you're looking for a a mass death
mass murder,
area,
mass death.
you-
That's where you
I-
should
I-
go.
yeah.
Well, it's not even, for tragic history. Like I said, when I research places for these experiments, I'm looking for places where people have had physical contact, where they've been touched in various different ways.
Well, it's not
So-
just death, but I mean, Auschwitz is associated with torture, and what was that doctor's name? Doctor, the one that did all
Mengele
those
or something. Yeah,
Mengele, yeah, that did all those experiments. Like there was torture. There was, I mean, if you're looking for tortured souls, like people that would want to cross the veil, I'm thinking like these areas is where that veil would be the thinnest.
I'm sure
right?
there's probably something
Yeah.
there. Yeah, definitely.
I think we should team up and try to see if we can get permission to do Auschwitz.
Oh, you're going on your own, buddy, because I got enough scratches. And that's
I
just
would
the
walk
fleas.
butt
That's just
naked
fleas.
into Auschwitz. I'm very good friends with the Jewish people.
And
I
I
think
would,
it would be
I would,
the, I
I'll
think it
fund
would be
it.
the
I'll fund
Nazis
it.
that I would be scared of. The old Nazi death camp guards that died there that would scare me.
Yeah,
more
you
than-
know what? Manu brings up a great point. We talk about the deaths and the suffering of those that were there, right? But what happens to those that caused it when they pass away, right? What happened to all the Nazi people that did that when they died? What happens to their souls?
If
Are
I
their
was
souls
God, just saying,
tied to that?
I would stick those mothers there, and the other guys would move on, but those guys would stay right where they were.
I'm wondering if
it's
that,
hard
at
to
least
say.
for a while.
There's a lot of different theories as to why a place could be haunted. And one of the theories is you judge yourself. You don't feel that you were a good enough individual to go on to the heaven you believe in, and you may choose to stick around. So in those cases, when somebody obviously was involved in a lot of horrible acts, they may choose to stay behind because
I mean, if it was that easy, I'm going straight to heaven because I have a high opinion of myself. But other people may have, and I'm just saying, people that did that kind of crap may have a high opinion of they might have been thinking they were doing the right thing. I disagree 1,000%.
yeah.
But if that's their own opinion, hey, we did what we had to do, it was a good thing. Are they going to heaven because they think it was good, or is it based on our like the worldly?
From the Christian perspective, they're effed.
They're going straight to hell, like with a
yeah.
boot on their face. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but
Yeah.
but if it's based on your own opinion, well, that changes things.
Well, there's this one thing too. We were going to the USS Turner Joy, which is a boat here in Washington and Bremerton, and there was only like a couple of deaths that actually happened on the ship. Am I right in that, Ross?
yes,
But
guys.
but it's still haunted. So one of the things that Ross had brought up was it can be that people would pass and go to a certain place, or some place would be imprinted with things. It doesn't necessarily have to do with, a terrible thing that happened somewhere, but could be an imprint of an energy or a space and time that where someone passes they want to go to, or who knows, maybe there's a whole crew of people still on that ship that have passed.
Or let's get into the multiversal reality of possible physics, right?
Yeah.
You could have a cross-dimensional episode in that space that is happening. I want to share a little bit of something with you guys. I have a bunch of friends that have had psychotic breaks, and a lot of friends that have had these psychotic breaks that have shared them with me have all shared something similar in their experience, which is that they've all had a sense during their psychotic break that they were somehow interdimensionally seeing things, seeing the future, recognizing how their death could happen in the future and avoiding it, and getting in this sort of like strange possible multiversal vision of, and they would start to believe that they could control that or alter that. Now, I was watching a documentary the other night on the Gilco 4. Now, the Gilco 4 were 4 girls that were murdered in a Long Island. And the reason that they found these girls was there was this one girl that was a call girl, and she was she started to go crazy at this party and thinking people were attacking her. And her driver was like, nobody's coming after you. Nothing's happening. I'll get in the car. Like, we'll go home. She got in the car. They were driving in that place in Long Island where they ended up finding these 4 dead bodies. And she jumped out of the car and started screaming and running and thinking somebody was chasing her, trying to kill her. And she started knocking on doors. And long story short, her driver drives home and she disappears. So they start looking for her body. Over the next year and a half, they find 16 bodies in this marsh in that area, including these 4 dead girls that were placed equidistant, like sort of like a trophy ground for this killer. And this girl who they find a year and a half into the search looks like she wasn't killed at all, that she just had an episode and lost herself in this marsh and drowned. There was no evidence of her being killed, and there was no evidence of her being chased by anyone. And all the witnesses were like, this girl's just losing it. But she lost it enough that maybe my theory is that it's possible she had a connection with one of these other spirits that had been murdered there. And she was in her high state, smoking too much rock, too much speed, having an episode that maybe she brushed past paths with one of these spirits, and it entered her and made her have the experience and drove her out into the marsh. And like all those realities are, a lot of people would say that's crazy to even suggest that. But from all the different people that have had psychotic breaks to me and that have said, all of them say when they come back from these things and get medicated right and even get off the medications, they still say to me, Manu, it's still very hard for me to, thinking back on it, the memories were so real. I felt like I was in a multiversal reality, and that I had shifted into one of the other possible realities that are going around us at all times. Like you're talking about this boat, right? This boat that was sitting there also was there when Native Americans were slaughtered. And it was also there when all different things in history have happened. And I wonder if some of those things can actually cross paths in our matrix, in our avatars.
That's the same question, and Manu nailed it. Can the paranormal have an impact on the mortal?
Yeah.
Well, here's an even further out theory that I had was, okay, do either one of you guys believe in the simulation theory?
Absolutely.
Oh,
okay,
in fact, every day more and more.
Here we go. Manu will talk at length on that. Yes.
No, so here's a really far out one that I had that I told Ross, and you never know. So my thought is if we're in a simulation, we're in a database, and all of the software is in a database, whatever it is. If somebody dies in the database or in the simulation, they can be put to another side, because as long as nobody forgets that person, they're still not active, but still stuck in the database. And depending on how they're remembered and what they're remembered for, there could be things that reoccur because of the database and people remembering and pulling stuff out of that database, and it could cross over to the active portion of the simulation.
And
So I
good or
started
bad,
thinking
right?
about,
Good or bad.
Yeah.
Like Mother Teresa might be remembered forever. Hitler might be remembered forever, but for two very different reasons.
Yeah. And so that stuff stays in the database in an inactive portion of it. And so then you may see that things will happen in our active portion of it because people remember. Because when we were there was stories about where we got physically interacted with. There's stories about a specific entity that stays in that corner, and there was a thing that happened there with this one person. And so could the imprint be that it's still, because we're remembering it, freshly remembering what had happened there, that it gets pulled over from this side into our side, and then something happens because of that?
Yeah. All right. So with a little bit more on simulation
Ross
theory.
is like, what are you guys doing now?
No, but hey, this is cool. This is all.
You know,
about the same thing.
I
We're
love
not
talking,
getting
you know,
sidetracked.
theories, ideas, you know, and that's what inspires us to do what we do, because it gives us at least a starting point if we can validate whatever it is out there. Because, you know, me and Chad both agree, we can't say that this is ghosts, you know, but we can say something happened, something physically happened to these individuals, to these subjects. We've got data to validate it. Something came out of nowhere,
and something
touched
happened
them,
to
and
Chad
then left.
while he was talking shit,
right?
Which is also gives a little bit more validation that something attacked him or something wanted to, hey, shut the fuck up.
And
So
not only that, but I did
there's
it
a correlation
twice and got
between
an
the
outcome.
instrument. Sorry, there's a correlation between the instrument reading and their reaction. Like there's a correlation.
yeah,
it's
definitely.
It's not random. It's just we
Right.
saw a flux.
It's not the special
and-
effects of editing, you know?
Yeah.
Oh,
good.
Wow.
Good. No, I'm glad that you said that, because, like, you know, a lot of ghost people will do that just to try to get
Right,
content.
right.
And I can see that on Ghost Adventures, because they're under pressure to get content. And so they're like, they always have to make something up if they don't get it. And back in the when they started, there were a few shows where they're like, we didn't get nothing, sorry, but you know, this place isn't haunted, it's bogus. But these days, because of the popularity of the show, they're sort of forced to get something. And I can see them do that.
Oh, I know.
sometimes.
I've been on tons of television shows, and I've been cut from shows because I wouldn't lie about my
Yeah,
experiences.
you're like, nothing happened to me, man.
Nothing happened. I'm sorry. I'd love to tell you something happened, but it didn't. And you know, they cut you for it. Because
Now, Manu, I was going to say, Manu had a real experience at a bar with a ghost with cameras and a fan. I want you to tell them this so that they know what you actually saw,
so let me share one of
experienced,
my
and felt.
experiences.
Yes.
This is actually quite good. All right, the first and only ghost adventure or ghost hunt that I've ever been on. I was in a town in Florida. I can't remember the name of it. Damn it, Hollywood, Florida, whatever that county is. I was in that county, and there was a ghost hunting group there, and they took me out. I was at a convention. They were a group at the convention. They were like, "We're going on a ghost hunt tonight. Do you want to go?" I was like, "Absolutely. I'm fascinated." So we went out, and we went to a graveyard first, and then we went to this haunted bar. And I walked around the graveyard with a directional microphone and trying to get AVPs and all those type of things. Nothing for 3 hours, and I was like really disappointed. We had some of those balls that light up. We had a lot of different equipment. We had one of those cameras where you can see the figure, the mapped figure. Nothing. So I'm like, this is boring. Nothing's going to happen. Then we go to the bar, and when I got to the bar, I was basically walking through the bar, kind of doing what you were doing, Chad. Like, I was angry. And I was like, this is fucked up. If anybody's going to show themselves, will you fucking show yourself already? Because this is bullshit. I've been here for 4 hours. It's not fun. I want to go home. And if you're going to show yourself, fucking do it now, because, like, we're sick of waiting for you. Right at that moment, they had a camera set up on the bar. And the bartender at the bar, at this closed bar that had closed down for us to do the hunt, noticed there was a figure sitting in the bar chair, and we noticed on the camera that the figure was sitting in the bar chair. And the guy at the bar kind of started tearing up, and he goes, "Oh my God, that's I think his name was Bob. Yeah, that's Bob's seat. And I was like, is your name Bob? And the thing went, its hands started pumping in the air like this. And so I walked around the bar and looked right at this empty bar stool and started having a conversation with this thing. And I was like, hey, Bob, there's all your friends here, and there's friends from the bar. And this guy had passed away like 2 months. He was a regular at this place. He used to drive his boat in and crash it on the dock. And he was like a guy that was always there, really good personality, apparently. And, favorite guy at the bar who had passed away 2 months previous. And so I started asking him questions. Hey, Bob, do you want to buy all your friends a drink? And Bob would do that again, right on command. Like, yeah. So we poured everybody a drink. And I asked the bar stool, cheers me, Bob. And the damn thing cheersed me, like high-fived me when I asked it to high-five me. It was really amazing because this is my first, ghost hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And all this stuff, we're capturing all of it. I went back around the camera, asked somebody else to interact with it. When they walked in and started interacting with it, it jumped up into the blade of the ceiling fan, and its feet were dangling off the ceiling fan, and it was doing one of these kind of things. And it was he was an Irishman, so it was very, very convincing that this was Bob. And it was about a half an hour of this thing interacting with us. When a guy would walk up to try to reach up to the fan, I'd say, go get him, go get Bob. And one of the other actors at the convention, I forget what show he was from, but he walked on, tried to reach up, and it would disappear. And when he would turn around and walk 6 feet that way, it would reappear, and it'd be doing this again. And he would turn back around to go grab it, and it would disappear. It was very, very interactive. There was like no way this thing wasn't interacting.
But the apparition had control over where he was and what he was doing.
Where
right?
he was, what he was doing, and he agreed to cheers. He agreed to high five. It blew my mind.
But he could also disappear if somebody,
whenever he wanted.
He didn't want. Yeah, and then he could reappear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
And it convinced me it was Bob. And it actually had the bartender and a couple of the owners of the place tearing up because just how much it interacted with everybody. So I believe in all that stuff. I think it's
but it interacted in a personality consistent with what Bob's real
the guy. Yeah.
personality was. Yeah.
And that's where, what me and Chad were trying to do is we're just trying to validate those experiences with more data.
Yeah.
And how cool it would have been to be able to collect our data with your data and say, hey, there's a lot more going on here.
I'll hook you up with the ghost group out there, and if you guys want to talk to them, they said to me, "You're so lucky that this is your first ghost hunt and this happened. Like this does not happen on a regular basis. And I'm like, I believe it. It was very intense. So, oh man, I just had a question for you guys and I lost it. That sucks.
Well, I was going to say, I am very open-minded when it comes to the SLS cameras. I've actually used them on some of my experiments, and we do have a result where one of our subjects was not looking at the screen, just was sitting there, and all of a sudden felt a tap on their shoulder, and at that, or actually pressure on the back of their head. And at that moment, there was that, the stick figure pushing against her head at that moment. And
I also
she could not see it. She could not see the screen to have any, leading information on that. She just said that I felt it right at the same moment. Right.
And I also saw that you guys caught a lot of orbs, and you were able to document with the equipment and the orb that was going down the hallway.
Well, there's more to it than just because I have to be aware of the fact that there's a lot of factors that produce false orbs.
Okay.
And so one of the things that we always focus on is having 3 points of data to validate our experiences, to say, yes, there is something here. And so with Chad's, SPECTRE system, it wasn't just about, seeing a light, spectrum going across the screen. He actually had data to validate something went across the screen.
Yeah, and I noticed that in the documentary that like not only did the guy that was walking down the hallway kind of go oh as it went by, but then you had the scientific data that was backing it up as well. So and you've been doing this for 7 years, you said?
These experiments, yeah. It all
Yeah.
started when a young man reached out to me and had a physical experience where something was getting a little frisky with him. And so he called me out to, to verify, this ghost, that there was a ghost in his house. And, hearing these stories of him being touched was nothing new to me. I've been, doing this for over 30 years. And I've heard a lot of these stories, but the frustrating thing for me was it's really their personal encounter. And you really have to take their word for it. There's nothing you can do to prove to me that you were touched unless there was some physical mark left behind. So that's what got me. Yeah, but that's got me thinking. It's just like, how do you prove that you were touched in various different ways? And so I started to look, for some experiments that I could do. I figured there's got to be somebody throughout history that's done some experiments to try and prove touch. And to my surprise, nobody had. There was nothing out there published that said, this is something I've done to try and prove touch. Because I was looking for some sort of inspiration. And I realized, am I the first in history to actually try and validate these encounters? And so that's just what kept the ball rolling, as I started coming up with these, interesting experiments to try and prove touch. And then as I was collecting this data, something was happening, but it wasn't enough for me to put it out there to the public and say, here's proof to the paranormal. I needed more. And that's what, drove me to reach out to Chad and say, hey, Chad,
yeah, I was going to say, you call your scientist buddies.
Yeah, so I'm doing these experiments. How can I make this better? How can I prove it to even you, Chad? As a scientist, how do I prove it to you that these things are happening? And for all luck, Chad got involved.
One of the things that scientists look at are brain waves, right? You've seen the little plastic swimmer's hat with all the electrodes, and they examine brain waves. Is there a way to have something like that to see if somebody is experiencing like a touch? Is there a brain wave or a pattern that correlates to that?
And that's more experiments that we'd like to do. I don't know if you want to add to that, Chad.
Yeah, I think from what we've done is we've been able to sense that something has happened in the space, but we don't quite yet understand how it interacts with people. So in the instance where like somebody gets scratched, what's happening there? Is it something that instantaneously manifests around them and there's an energy that burns, scratched, whatever? What is the person going through at that time? So those are the next steps and experiments we have to do. We've looked at the space based on what Ross had already been doing experiments on. And now we need to understand what's happening with the human, because ultimately that's what we're, looking at. And it's pretty interesting because with the human body being the most notable, beacon for these things to happen to, right, we can't just put the sensors into a space yet because we don't know everything that it could be. So it's one of those things where until you have enough data to actually have a really strong hypothesis or going into like, I have a theory that this is what's going on based on these types of things, we have to have the human there as well. So that, right, I think is what makes it, so interesting.
And one of our big failures as a human being and as human beings, what sucks so bad about our biology is that we're not like the Vulcans. We can't just touch each other and share our experience. And if we could, if I had a ghost encounter that I could just touch your skin and show you exactly what I experienced and you felt exactly what I experienced, it would be so much easier to prove to each other our realities. I've always said that you can't be empathetic truly to anyone unless you actually have the experience. You can empathize, but you can't really understand unless you have the experience. And once you have it, then you're both on the same page. And it's a sad thing. I want to say one more thing about, you brought up simulation theory. And lately, over the last 5 years, ever since I heard of it, more and more when I look around the world, I think of things that prove that it's a simulation of some kind, and whether it's a spiritual
Matrix.
simulation and God has
Matrix.
some computers, or like I'm open to all of it. But one of the things is we're all coded. The fact that we found this DNA and we literally are coded, from grass to trees to human beings to all mammals, we can look at their code. To me, that's like obviously something is programming us.
Not only that, but we can use programs that we made to recode that code to do something different.
CRISPR is just for that. Now, I've got a philosophical question, maybe for all three of you.
And our brains work on electricity. You know, everything seems to work on electricity, battery. You know,
we've been talking about death in the human experience, but there are a billion living organisms on Earth. Are we the only one that have an afterlife, or do cats, dogs, other animals? Is there an afterlife there too? And can that be measured or tested?
Well, I think, whatever, path that me and Chad are on, there's a start. Again, we don't have all the information, like you said. This is just, as we've always said, we're just scratching the surface here. But just to touch base on animals, in afterlife, there have been, hundreds of thousands of cases and stories of, seeing the apparitions of animals and interactions with the spirits of animals. So there's something to that as well.
And great societies who believe that, the cats, like the Egyptians, who believed that cats were the guardians of the afterlife. I've actually had cats that when another cat died or another friend died, and I was sad about that thing, immediately start acting like either my friend or that other cat. I think they have like real abilities that we have no idea in the mammal world.
I agree.
About.
Well, they obviously see stuff we don't see, and
they obviously do. They're always checking shit out. Dogs will bark at stuff, and I'll be like, "There ain't nothing there," but he sees
and that's funny too, because people have always come up to me and said, is your animal psychic? And I don't think animals. I don't want to say that animals aren't psychic, but I do believe that they are seeing and hearing things that we can't.
We can't, no doubt.
Which isn't necessarily psychic, but maybe another sense that we don't have, right?
Right.
Which is not to say that
we may have lost touch with,
Right,
and
exactly.
There's tons of different mammals and tons of different types of life forms that have different senses that we don't have. Dolphins, echolocation, etc., all that stuff.
I really believe through technology and our own laziness that we've dulled a lot of our senses.
Me too. And I think it's getting worse and worse with the new cell phone generation and not living in the moment hardly ever, carrying our computers.
I'm sorry, what were you saying? I missed that. What was that? I didn't hear you. What?
Yeah, I mean, I remember just 25 years ago where I would walk outside and I would go to the grocery store and I would have thoughts, and I would sit at the grocery store not thinking about what was on my cell phone or what was dinging in my pocket. I would just sit down and eat a sandwich and eat the sandwich and taste the sandwich and look at the trees. I don't seem to do that anymore, and I think we're all really negatively affected. I think there's some positive effects to the tech, but there's definitely a lot of negative ones too.
Remember when you used to remember stuff?
Yeah, I remember when I used to remember like 150 phone numbers.
Hey, you know what?
If my phone got lost, I don't know who I would contact. I don't know who I would.
Everybody remembers their home phone number. When you were a kid, what was your home phone number? Manu knows, I know, Ross, Chat. We all know our home phone number, right?
Yeah.
My niece, who's 14 years old, sitting in the living room right now. If I said, "What is your mom's phone number? What is your sister's phone? What is my phone number?" Oh, I don't know. It's in my phone. Hold on. I'll tell you what the number. Like, they don't remember their home phone number.
And I've experienced even worse. In Los Angeles, I used to know that city backwards and forwards, inside and out. And I used to use a thing called a Thomas guide to find the city.
Oh, yeah.
And I would drive all around, and so I really knew the city. Then I started using the GPS to go everywhere. I just programmed the GPS, follow the GPS. Now when I go back home and I'm driving around LA, I'm like, how do you get to Santa Monica? Like it's that bad. I literally am like reliant upon this machine now. Same here in the Springs. I'm just like, how do I get home? And I'll try to get home on my own, and I'll be like, damn it, I gotta go to the.
100 years ago, if the power went out nationwide, people would still
People
know how
would
to
be
live,
okay.
right? Yeah, they could still hunt food and cook, and everything would be fine. If nationwide the power were to go out tomorrow, would you know how to go out and forage and live off the earth?
Not many people.
I wouldn't.
Not many people, man. It would be over with for so many.
Dead.
Yeah. In fact,
I would be calling Chad to give me some alternate power.
No, you can't call him. There's no technology. That's the point. If the electricity all went away,
he would have to use his telepathic sense.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Please, Chad.
You would die, and your ghost would go to Chad and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
a little too late now, but I could have used that help an hour ago."
Yeah. So everybody out there that's listening, please check out these guys' documentary. It's really interesting. It's called Parasense. There's also another title. What's the end of it? Parasense, the
Naked Experiments.
The Naked Experiments.
Oh, yeah.
So Parasense, the Naked Experiments, you can rent it on Amazon. It's probably up a bunch of different places. You can Google it.
Rated R.
Yeah. And what is your guys' website? Touched by a Ghost? Is that it?
Touchedbyaghost.com.
Touchedbyaghost.com. It's all in the description below. Let's take some callers. Do we have some callers for these guys? Are you serious?
Not tonight. I even posted a comment from your account asking people to come on here and tell us to fuck off. But these guys were so informative. We had a comment earlier that this is deep content.
Yeah,
we've been cracking jokes the whole time.
No. They are so good and so thorough.
Well, they are.
We don't have questions. I mean, you're nailing every freaking answer. Normally, the guests we have on here, there's so many open questions, right? Well, how do you? Well, what does that mean? Well, what?
Yeah.
You guys are so freaking good. People are like, oh no, I got it. We're good.
All right,
Cool.
so check this out. One of the big mistakes I made tonight was not getting the show out on all my social medias, and so I don't know how many watchers do we have right now. 500 or something.
226.
Oh my god! All right, I'm sorry, guys. I really screwed you guys over tonight, so I apologize. Well, what will happen is people will watch this show
over the week,
and I'll also get it out there more than I did.
Or you can even watch the show and you can have us back on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
We go.
All right. So here's the thing. There's a really good friend of mine that I've actually recently just met over the last year, who's actually talking about possibly getting Dangerous Thoughts on the road and getting us a tour bus and letting us drive across America and do some crazy stuff and interview some people. So maybe we could even come do like a ghost hunt on a Wednesday and then do a Saturday show about what we found, and we can all get naked. It'll be fantastic. I think that's
I love that naked and cum were in the same sentence there, but keep going.
Yeah,
keep going.
I did that twice already. So but what the whole idea is, let's get like 30 really crazy things to go do, interesting things to go do, scientific things to go do, dangerous things to go do, and let's interview the most interesting folks in that place at the same time. So we could meet up, we could do a ghost hunt, and then we could talk about it. And I love that we all have to take off our clothes. That makes it it would be a huge show. So it's a Dangerous Thoughts on the Road. It's probably coming sometime next year. I'd love to come do that with you guys. I'd love to join you guys on that show if you were down to. I would. Is Chad and are you guys both in the same city? Are you guys Seattle located?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I have tons of friends in Seattle, and Seattle also has tons of cool places to go visit.
My brother's in Bremerton. I'll go up and stay with them, and we'll
guys
just go
might have
Puget.
even seen my grandfather in your ghost hunt, because my grandfather is now passed on. He was 101, and back in the day, I think in Bremerton is where one of his shipyards was, where he used to work on ships back in the day.
He worked on the Turner Joy.
Yeah,
probably the Turner Joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you might have even been talking to one of my Oh, thanks.
I'm
buddy.
down to meet up in Bremerton. You guys just tell me when I'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're
no,
so,
that's-
so
the
we'll
haunted ship I
definitely
was
keep in
talking about is
contact.
in Bremerton. So, yeah.
And after the show gets some more viewership, we'll call you back and see what, and we'll get you back on and we'll get some questions answered. Also, we took a break last week, and anytime you take a break from a show, it's tough to
algorithm
let everyone know that you're
gets
back.
us.
Yeah, the algorithm gets nasty. But it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. I appreciate you guys coming on, and
Thank you. Yes.
thank you for coming on Dangerous Thoughts. It's been
You
fun.
bet.
I'm gonna go watch the rest of your movie right now. For the 256 people of you that are still tuning in, go check out Parascientist, the Naked Experiments, everywhere that you download movies and stream them. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Ross. And
Anytime.
we'll be
Thank you.
talking to you next week, and we'll be on every week from this point on for a very long time on Dangerous Thoughts. Keep your thoughts dangerous. Keep your minds open. And take off your clothes when ghosts are around. We'll see you next week.
Downtown, walking fast, faces pass, and I'm homebound. And I need you. You've been lonely and you're never coming round. Every now and then I get a
Safety tips like if you come to this fence over here.
This one.
Ah, fuck! It's electric.
You're not supposed to touch it.
Don't touch it because
Well,
it's
why
electrified.
didn't you say that?
I was getting into it and you grabbed the fence. I pointed at the fence.
The fence can't be that bad.
It's
It didn't hurt.
electrocuted.
Keeps the cows in. It's electric. He's just from New Zealand. He's a pussy.
No, it keeps the cows in.
You think I'm not tougher than a cow?
Yes.
Cowbunga, baby. Fuck! What the fuck is that? Pikachu's in that fence, bro. Fuck.
Take it to him. Ruin their motivation to survive. Private is like a jungle holding rest of a nation. You couldn't hold me like a tongue, you need to last in the weight. Hey, gorilla hearted, I be in my chest to stay alive. Take it to him. Ruin their motivation to survive. Private is like a jungle holding rest of a nation. You couldn't hold me like a tongue, you need to last in the weight. Hey, gorilla hearted, I be in my chest to stay alive. Hey.